Welcome to PocketExperts.Solutions. This event is for educational purposes. The terms and conditions and the privacy policy apply as posted on the PocketExperts.Solutions website. Today, our guest expert is Karen Kaseno. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to be here.
Karen is the president of the Kaseno CPA firm. She is a forensic accountant specializing in financial issues relating to fraud investigations, marital dissolutions, economic analysis for business damages, personal injury, wrongful death, wrongful termination, and other litigation support. She is the creator and author of the Fraud Safe 5-Day Training on Fraud Prevention and Investigation. She has been performing accounting and forensic accounting services since 1985. Karen is a certified public accountant, a certified valuation analyst, certified fraud examiner, certified forensic financial analyst. She's accredited in business valuation, and she's certified in financial forensics. This meeting, Karen, we're going to talk about staffing considerations during a business interruption. As we attend the meeting, do you have any opening comments?
So staffing is one of your highest expense items on your income statement, but also one of the biggest assets of your company. And so during a business interruption, decisions about who to cut and what positions to cut, and then what you're going to need to come out of that business interruption is really important in terms of people. So this webinar will discuss some considerations dealing with those issues.
Outstanding. Let's start our first question. Can I and should I retain my staff?
So that's probably going to be one of your biggest questions, is that you are hit with a business interruption. Right now we're dealing with the COVID-19. But it could be any business interruption. Your business has been interrupted, and for some period of time you are not going to be able to continue with your business, normal business, and you've got to make some decisions on who you can retain and what makes sense. So looking at taking a real quick look, because a lot of times this happens to you and you don't have time to put a lot of planning into it, is immediately there's some considerations as to what do I need to retain to keep the minimum staff going to maintain the operations that I have available to me now, and then who will I need to get me out of this situation and into getting it built back up to where it was, or even better than it was before. So really having a good idea of the different staff people that you have available to you, their skill set, how long they've been with you, how necessary are they to today's operations versus what you're going to need for the future. So you really need to look at which staff members you should maintain and which ones are the best ones to cut during this business interruption.
I agree. If you have something like in a restaurant and you have a chef, and that chef is a good reason as to why people come for his food, then that's kind of obvious, right? But if you have a wait staff and that wait staff is just as good and just as trained, right? And there's a lot of complexities to the way you want to run your business, you have to think about the cost of retraining the staff versus retaining the staff. And what's my downtime to retain, and how much pain do I have to retain that staff or retrain that staff when I make that decision? Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And no doubt about it, these are tough decisions. These are tough decisions because you may have some people that have been with you a very long time and are at a very high pay rate, and they're not needed during this interim time. And as you come out of this devastating business interruption, they may not be the people that you necessarily need to move you forward. And so it may be a time to talk about some exit packages for them. And so these are tough decisions, but they're monetary business decisions that are based upon where you're at today, where you need to be to get out of this, and where you want to be in the future.
Yeah. And it also could be not necessarily even a restaurant. Let's say it's a professional service corporation and you have high complicated clientele, right? And some of that staff works with this high compensated clientele on a regular basis, and they've become friends, acquaintances, professionals. And before you know it, if you let those staffs go, have you lost some of that glue to retaining not only the operations in the future, but your client base going forward, right? What
Right.
prevents some of that staff that you just let go to going to be hired by somebody else and bringing the clients with them? Do they have non-competes? Do you have them under contract? Those are all different questions, right?
Right. And you've really got to look at that carefully and consider, what people you need to keep, what people you need to, that can afford maybe to not be part of your short-term plan.
Sure. If unable to retain the staff, should they be let go, furloughed, or should I have to pay an hour reduction?
So one of the first things that is important is communication. We are going to have to at some point build trust again with the employees that do remain, and talking with everyone and the considerations that you're making before the cuts are made can be helpful. Now, we don't always have the luxury of that, but in a perfect world, we have time to sit down and talk with, hopefully, if you have some staffing professionals, some human resources people, talking to them about, what are my options legally, what makes the most sense for them and for us, because it's looking at what makes sense for the company, because the company needs to survive. I think everybody would like to do the right thing and be as generous as we can, but that's just not a possibility sometimes. So there might need to be layoffs. So what makes the most sense for your employees, and it might be a different situation for each one of them. So having communication with the assistance of your human resources people, if you have them, but asking the employees, because there might be people that will volunteer to be the ones that are furloughed or put on, unemployment or have a reduced pay. Talking with them, I know a lot of companies during this COVID-19 time that sat down, and as a company, they decided we would rather have everybody stay at a 20% pay cut and do the best that we can to move this company forward through this bad time. There were other companies that there were, employees that did not rely upon the health insurance from the company because maybe they were covered by their parents or their spouse. And so those employees were much more willing to take a furlough or be on unemployment while allowing the employees that are the sole supporters of their family to remain on payroll or at a slight pay cut. So there's a lot of different options for accomplishing what you need to accomplish, keeping in mind, obviously, as Mark stated, there's certain employees, the chef at the restaurant, your president of your company, your key people that deal with the customers, the high-end customers, or the ones that have been there the longest, et cetera. You want to make sure that you keep people that are key and integral to your company, keep them on, but have that communication, see what the employees are thinking, let them have some input into what decisions you might make. A lot of times, like I said, there's some employees that aren't going to be damaged at all. And the fact they're more than happy to, it's not a big deal to me. I don't mind, I'm going to school and I only work part-time, or I live with my parents and I'm on their health insurance. It's not that important. I would rather my friends and other coworkers that need this job and need the benefits to be the one to remain on. So there's a lot of different options. Do we keep, we've got 20 employees, do we try and keep all 20 and have them all be part-time? Or do we keep 10 of them and put 10 of them on furlough or on unemployment? Or, do we look at this situation and let them know they've been let go? Maybe they haven't been with us that long and they can go find other positions and it won't be detrimental to you and actually might be a benefit to them. So there's a lot of things to think about and a lot of different options that you have available to you.
Okay, great. Who can work from home?
So certainly in this COVID-19 time, but everybody had to work from home pretty much except for essential workers. And so everyone that could was sent home, and provisions were made or remade to have them work from home. And so companies that didn't have that provision now have that, which was kind of an amazing thing how quickly some companies were able to adjust to that. But in a normal business, maybe a business interruption like a hurricane or an earthquake or something like that, or a flood that happens to the premises of the company, certainly making the decision and sending the people home and getting them set up to work at home productively is one thing that can be done, and certainly having those processes and those provisions in place so whenever this happens, you can have that workforce be at home. Not everybody can. Not everybody has the setup that they can. Certainly, we've learned in the COVID-19 time that people had to have computers. Well, most people had computers. They had to have internet access and good internet access, and they needed to have some space to be able to do it. They needed to have maybe the temperament to be able to do it. So who is able to work from home and what provisions need to be made to do that? Not everyone can do it. And now we've learned. Now during this COVID-19 time, I think most companies have learned, gosh, we didn't know that most of the people can work from home or everyone can work from home. And when we are coming out of this time, how much of it do we have to bring back to the office? How much can we leave with people working at home? How many of the staff enjoy working at home versus being in the office? Again, it comes back to communication and talking to the employees about what worked for them, what didn't work for them, what they want, what their ideal workload and working conditions would be, because we now have this option. Most companies would say that we now have this option. We've worked towards this, and who wants to work from home versus who needs to be in the office, and can we have different shifts or maybe days of the week that certain people are here versus others. So certainly something that during the COVID-19 time we worked out, but something that companies in any time can figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Well, that's definitely true of service corporations, but then you also have like the restaurants and the shopping centers and the various retail establishments, as well as Home Depots or manufacturing of widgets that have other challenges, right?
Right. Now, some of that, obviously we have the issue with the meat packing plants and places like that it's difficult, if not impossible, for them to do at home. But some companies have been able to work around. I have a client that's an art supply store, and they've been shut down this whole time, but they've been able to figure out ways to put art kits together that they advertise online and put together. People grab stuff at the store and go home and put these boxes together, and then people drive by and they put it in their trunk and pay for it online. And so there's a lot of new ways that new alternative sources can be developed and people can be utilized to work at home.
Outstanding. I love when people innovate and pivot. How do I manage staff from afar? That's a great question. It's a very difficult question.
It's a very difficult question because those of us who manage people think it comes naturally, and it doesn't for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like to manage people and don't have the skill set necessary, and so the people that can manage need to be put in those positions, and the people that need to be managed, meaning they without someone looking over them and what they're doing, they're not necessarily going to be that productive. So that comes back to having kind of processes and controls in place where there's ways to check in on what it is they're doing and having people sign on, and just rules that they follow and ways that they do things so that one, they're being productive, that things are being done in accordance with the company policy, that they have the ability to still run things past supervisors if they need to, yet still at the same time be able to work as independently as possible because, they're at home. So it's a special skill set to sparse out the people that are the manager level, supervisory level people, and then the people below them that need some of that supervision to make sure they're being productive and the quality of what they're producing is good. So that's been new for a lot of companies and a lot of people during the COVID-19 time. I certainly think it's been a learning experience for a lot of companies that may lead to permanent changes of allowing people, as we mentioned before, to stay working at home at some level and still continue to operate businesses that way.
What are some of the additional expenses I will need to incur to enable staff to effectively telecommunicate?
So this has been a big, I've noticed with my clients and even with my own office getting adjusted to the COVID-19 where everybody's at home, making sure that they have a full workstation set up, for CPAs like me and you, making sure that they've got computer and they've got internet access and they've got a printer if they have to, and they've got a good supply of paper and thumb drives and whatever else it is they're going to need. If they're going out to meet with clients, do we provide them with the face masks that they need? And so, what information do they need and what additional expenses do I need to offer to them to make sure that they can work from home? So I think it's been a big learning experience. I know with my staff that I just said, whatever it is we need to make this work, let's do that. So if that's a better computer, if I need to get a better service out where you're at, better cell phone, whatever it is we need to do, let's do it. And if we need to get some stuff from Amazon to get delivered to you so that you have paper coming in all the time, or printer ink, whatever it is we need to do, let's get that set up and make it easy for you to telecommute, make it so that your employees aren't incurring any extra expenses on their own.
Okay, good. What are some new modification policies or new modified policies that you will need to be in place for telecommunicating?
So everybody, we always need to know expectations and what is expected of us and what we're supposed to be doing. So in a perfect world, everybody wants to be doing the right thing and not take advantage of the system. Of course, there are going to be some people that try and take advantage of the system of working at home, and how are they going to know if I'm working, or can't I just be by the pool and have my computer on? And so there's obviously some policies that need to be modified, and expectations, communication. This is what we expect of you. If I'm at home working, do I need to keep my same business hours? Do I still need to be 8:30 to 5 Monday through Friday? Or now that we have this work at home, can I sleep in and show up at 10 and work later? Or maybe I'm a real morning person and I want to sign in at 5 and be done at 2. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of different new or modified policies that you could have in place, and you'll have to put some thought into whether or not this works for you. You want it to work for your company, profitability of your company, but you also want it to work for them too. So can we set up different shifts? Doesn't matter what hours they work. Right now in the COVID-19 time, we have people at home with their kids that are schooling at home too. So do we need to modify the work hours to account for that? Do we just need to have some goals that we have in mind for them, that is, we still expect you to accomplish these goals during any given day, because maybe they're more or less productive at home and they don't know what's expected of them. So making it clear what, like I said, what time they have to sign in, and do they have to fill out timesheets, and do we have a Zoom meeting every day at noon, or what is the expectation, what's necessary, and what's efficient, what keeps everybody on track and actually keeps everybody healthy and happy and enjoying what they're doing in changing times.
Sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. How do I facilitate an ongoing sense of team cohesion?
So, and I've seen a lot of clients during this COVID-19 time. So we're talking about the COVID-19 time, but any business interruption where maybe everybody's working at home, and that might be more frequent after COVID-19 because for some period of time we're going to have to exercise some physical distancing, which may require less people in the office. This may go on longer than we think it does. So how do we, facilitate an ongoing sense of team cohesion? Well, making sure that we're still checking in with each other, that we still, I know the Zoom has come into being very popular during this COVID-19 time. So whatever platform you want to use where everybody can get online and see each other and talk and run ideas past each other. I've seen some great ideas like people, there's there's DoorDash or other food services where every Monday the companies say whatever the urban plates is or whatever by you, we'll order that for you so that everybody has lunch at the same time and we all get on Zoom or on FaceTime or whatever it is and check in with each other and just socialize and have this sense of team cohesion. I've seen things like companies having game nights where everybody checks in during the day and they play bingo or they do other things and there's prizes and things like that. So anything you have to do to keep the team feeling like they are part of the company and that there's communication. And it's hard. It's harder for some than others to be isolated and in their own home by themselves. Some people enjoy it, some people don't. But this comes back to communication and maybe every morning letting them know this is, hey, good morning, this is what we're doing today. Can you please check in about this or that? So it helps keeps people accountable, but also makes them feel more connected to the team and the company.
Karen, one of the things that I saw was you actually had three screens that you were working from, and one screen was virtually a virtual office where everybody had cameras and you saw everybody working and you could click on one person or another to interact with that individual, just like you would a phone call, and you could have a conversation with them so that ultimately, let's say that you wanted to talk to the accounting department or you wanted to talk to the marketing department or whoever it was, you just click on their picture and they would pop up and you'd be able to talk to them back and forth. So you felt like you were still part of the team. You had access to them. You could see everybody and moving around. And it does two things. It builds accountability, but it also kind of keeps that team feeling together.
Yeah, and just any kind of, fun things that you can do where they like lunches together or breakfast together. Everybody gets donuts or coffee on certain days, or we're gonna pay for dinner for your family tonight and we're all gonna celebrate something, just different. It's caused you to be a lot more creative and creating new ways of doing things. It's different, but I've seen companies be very creative and a lot of employees be very grateful that it's kind of been fun and different.
You wonder if, in fact, going forward, that these big complex office buildings that we see downtown with the names all over these big companies, if they don't rethink that, downsize that particular office position and take that money that they save and put satellite offices all over the suburbs that would facilitate their people having access from their home to have meetings and clients or meetings with their clients in various locations that still, if five or six people needed to get together for a meeting or a project, they could go to one of the satellites and work and do that, which is maybe 15 or 20 minutes away from their home, so they can spend a couple of hours doing that and then go back home to work. And you wonder if that's going to be a future look of what's going to happen going forward.
I would be shocked if this time period won't show people that there's just another way to live. And the commute times that some people were enduring of an hour and a half each way, and 2 or 3 hours in the car every day, and they just saw for their own eyes that they don't have to do that anymore, and they still can be as productive, even more productive, and they don't have to spend that time commuting back and forth. It's going to be a tough sell for those people to ask them to be back in the office. And you're right, I think that a lot of office space is going to be unused in the future, but there will be lots of employees also that want to go in. They like the vibrancy of the people and driving in and or taking the bus or whatever they do, and they don't mind that. They like city life, and they don't mind living in the city and not taking that long to get to work. And so I think you're going to have different people that like different things, and businesses have already learned how to adjust to that. So we've already learned how to make that work, and it probably will be different in the future.
I agree. If I need to hire someone else, how do I address that in the telecommunicating space?
So that's been interesting. And I know for my own business, we are now in the time where we're starting to reopen and add people to, have people come back and help us. A lot of people still want to stay at home and work at home, and that, to be frank, we're still in the situation that we're in summertime before kids go back to school, so it's not even a possibility for some of the people that have kids. But how do we, if we need to hire somebody new or bring in a temp to help us get through some busy time now that there's been a buildup of work and we've got work to do? That's a tough one. I've had to encounter that. I've had clients that we've had to work with them through that, because certainly interviewing, finding people's kind of the same process, interviewing them over the computer, and then it's just tougher to get them up to speed and trained when they're new to your firm. What I've seen is more processes and more ways that we do things in writing, and more recordings of things perhaps that says, let me record maybe once, like we're doing for Pocket Experts. This is how things are done, so that people can look at that anytime that they want. And you're just going to have to adapt. It's a little different, and it takes a different skill set, I think, for these people that need to be able to come in for a little bit of time and learn stuff over online and listen to things and work on their own and save up questions to ask you when you do have time to maybe be on Zoom together. So it is different. It takes a different skill set for both the person that's hiring and the person that's getting hired.
Sure. When can I bring my staff back to the office?
So this is a direct COVID-19 question, and if you're dealing with another type of business interruption, that may be more well dictated to you by perhaps your building getting built back, or getting an environmental clearance from the government, something like that. With COVID-19, it's going to be territory within certain counties and certain states. There's going to be certain provisions that you have to follow. One of the things we're telling companies now, and certainly that we've had to deal with, is knowing what those provisions are and what you need to do to keep the physical distancing that needs to be done. What can you do to make your office, without spending a bunch of money, making it more workable for the physical distancing and the staffing. And at least in California, where I'm at, and the other clients that I've had in other states, there have been forms that they needed to fill out that just said, what are you planning to do to get your office back ready for people to come back? And then they're approved at some level, not some sort of bureaucratical way, but just some sort of, all right, that makes sense to us. And so we are coming back with law firms and accounting firms like our businesses. Right now, we've got people that are basically at 25 to 50% capacity, and they're doing every other desk. If they think they needed to put up plexiglass between cubicles, they've done that. They're scheduling time in the kitchen where you can't just go anytime and get coffee, that there be time that you schedule to is your time, and then there's people that are frequently disinfecting and cleaning surfaces in between people. There's the more cleaning of the restrooms and the elevator and the shared areas like that. And so there's a lot of different provisions that are being recommended and done. So this is just one of those things where you've got to be in touch with your local government, but and if you have professionals that help you in this area, seeing what they recommend. I know the restaurants in our area just opened last Friday for dine-in customers, and so it looks way different. You know, it's every other table is available. They have to walk you back to the table. There is nothing on the table. There's no salt and pepper shakers. There's no sugar or anything like that, ketchup. The menus are all paper. The you know, everything, there's plexiglass through between most of the tables. So there's just going to be, this has got to be in your area, and you've got to check in and see what makes sense. And I know professional offices right now, they're doing different shifts. And honestly, most of the offices I know of that are working towards solutions to this, it's been kind of easy because about half the people want to stay home anyway. And whether it's because of health concerns or just they want to, that's the way they want to work from now on, that's the way it is. And so it's a lot of decisions are being made for management as to who wants to stay and who wants to come in.
Outstanding. Well, what a great conversation on staffing considerations during a business interruption. Karen, do you have any closing comments?
I would say if you're in the COVID-19 times, this is unprecedented and something that we didn't plan for, and we don't really know what that looks like in terms of how quickly things will be fully back, or if we'll have second waves, or if we're going to have to live with this for another 6 months or a year. So just having plans that can be revisited and changed along the way, and being flexible, especially with your employees, and listening to what it is is important to them and what makes sense for you is more important now than ever. But if it's just another type of business interruption, you're going to have a more defined return date. So that is a little bit easier for you, and something that, you know, you can form a plan and timing and develop something that makes sense for everybody a lot easier than the COVID-19 times.
I agree. Well, thank you, Karen. If you've enjoyed today's event, feel free to explore other opportunities as presented by Karen and other members of our team on the PocketExperts.Solutions website. Thank you for spending time with us, and enjoy your journey to achieving your goals.